started. My name is Carla.
And I'm Philip.
We're the founders of the 52 Hike Challenge. Today we're presenting on hiking ethics, and we're going to be talking about leave no trace and recreate responsibly. Our talk is sponsored by Technu, the outdoor itch experts, and REI, the outdoor retailer of the 52 Hike Challenge. Thank you all so much for being here, and let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so we're going to be just talking about a few things, and thought we'd start off with a few definitions. Front country is basically for day hikers. It's well-developed trails, has facilities, restrooms, whatnot. The back country means that this is usually for like no facilities. It's more remote. Tend to be good for backpackers or overnight events. Off trail is really something where it's off the designated trail, and this is usually for more remote areas. All right, so principle number one, plan ahead and prepare. So we really want you to be safe out there, and we want you to let people know where you're going and to properly prepare for those outings. So properly preparing means making sure that you have enough food, water, and appropriate clothing for the weather conditions that you're in. Let someone know where you're going. As you can see in the image, this is something very basic, but it'd probably be even better if you let them know exactly where you are, and maybe even the phone number or the ranger station if you're not back at a certain time frame. Knowing and being prepared on how to use a map and compass is also really important. There tend to be a lot of people that will find trails through cairns, but cairns are these rock formations that people stack rocks on top, but they're not always accurate. And sometimes people make them as designs, and they can mislead you. So it is your responsibility to know where you're going and how to get there, and then of course to get back safely. We also want you to make sure that you prepare for anything extreme. We always recommend taking the 10 essentials, making sure that you have a jacket. You never know in, say, the mountain areas, how the weather can change. It can be very unpredictable. So we really want you to be prepared for that. We also want to remind you to schedule those outings in non-peak times. That doesn't necessarily mean go out in the winter, but usually it means to be off-peak so you can really enjoy nature and avoid the high use times. Tend to go in smaller groups if that's possible. And another little tip here is to make sure that when you're repackaging your food, that will eliminate some of the waste. Like, for example, the store-bought stuff usually has a lot of air in it. I like to take my items out and put them all into a Ziploc bag and make sure that I'm prepared that way.
Also, one of the really important things about this principle is to make sure that you actually take the time to plan your trip out. I know that Philip and I were on a trip, and we had forgotten how complex it is to actually plan a trip. That includes doing your research before, and calling the ranger station, for example. We're going to actually talk a little bit more about this throughout the conversation today, but it means taking the time to look up the trails, to sometimes even pick up the phone, call the ranger station, confirm that the trails are open. This is going to save you so much more heartache than driving to the trailhead and then realizing, oh man, the trail is closed because of, for example, fires that have been happening here in California have shut down trails. And by the way, which we're going to talk more about, when a trail is closed because of a fire, it's usually closed for a couple years. It's not just like it's closed for a couple days. So that's really important, is to understand what the trail condition is and if the trail is open. All right, so with that, let's talk about principle number 2, which is traveling and camping on durable surfaces. So what does that mean, right? It means that we're going to stay on designated trails. It means that we're not going to stomp on vegetation. If the trails are muddy and wet, we're going to try to stick to a single file, because think about it, when the trail is wet, right? Like you're creating more erosion and you're leaving more impact on the trail. You're actually kind of creating a new trail. So the more we can stay in the middle of the trail that's already there, the better it's going to be. Please, one of the big things is to not take shortcuts. These are called sometimes like social trails, use trails, and things like that. They're not designated trails. So I know that at Griffith Park, for example, there are a ton of these trails. If they are not on an actual map from the park, that means it's not an official trail. So always look into that before you decide to go down a trail. If you can, if we always recommend you have a map for that reason. So avoid going down social trails and also cutting switchbacks. So like a lot of times, you know, those are the zigzags down the big mountain, for example. Sometimes people will try to go straight down, and that's what causes things like erosion and creating these social trails. We want to do our part to preserve the trails and make sure we don't start causing the parks to shut down. That does happen, by the way. Sometimes parks shut down certain trails because of that. And then obviously there are times, there are places, for example, we were just in Joshua Tree, we wanted to do a trail, and I read on the All Trails description that a part of it was people were coming up to this private property sign. So we decided not to venture out into that trail because we just didn't have enough information. You definitely don't want to get caught on private property. So please make sure that you do your due diligence and research. When you're camping, you're definitely going to want to be on designated or existing campsites. That means we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the next slide, but that means wherever you see like, hey, that looks like a good spot and people have probably camped there before, that's a good sign of a campsite. And as that little note says there, good campsites are found, not made. Okay, so talking about camping, a lot of you hopefully have gone camping. Let us know in the comments if you haven't or you have. We'd love to hear from you. But I know that as people start doing the 52 hike challenge, they start wanting to be out in nature more. So learning about where to camp is super important. So again, finding those durable campsites. Okay, what are durable campsites? These are going to be campsites that are over gravel, dry grass. Snow is okay, rock. As you can see in this image, this is actually sand in Joshua Tree, and this was a designated camp area. So trying not to use, one of the big things is like, do not camp in and on meadows, okay? Because this is thriving areas. You also want to be aware of things like living soil. So be mindful before you go. We really want you to actually go and do your own due diligence and look at Leave No Trace and read. They have a plethora of information, so you know where to camp, where to not camp. When you're camping, you definitely want to be at least 200 feet away from any water. Super important for animals. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, and to avoid actually, damaging resources that the water provides, contamination and et cetera from human waste. And also we want you to disperse, like if you have a group, try to have like different areas so that you're not all impacting one area. Try to keep your campsite small if possible, and try to avoid places where the impacts are just beginning, meaning like if you don't see very much camping has happened there, try to stick to those areas that have been camped on. All right, so talking about principle number 3, which is how to dispose of waste properly. Okay, so the number one thing that happens in the outdoors, and by the way, I just want to say that before I started camping, I would freak out about going outdoors, going outside and using the restroom. Like I didn't know what I was going to do, but it does have to happen, right? As you're out there and as you're camping, you're not always going to have these facilities. And if you don't have facilities, then you will need to dig a cat hole. So how do we do this? And how do we do it in a ethical way? Well, first things first, I have what I call little bag full of my outdoor restroom items. That includes a trowel, my toilet paper. It includes I like using biodegradable doggy bags, and that's where I keep my trash from the restroom. So that's my little baggie. I carry it with me all the time, whether I'm day hiking or I'm backpacking. You're going to want to dig a hole at least 6 to 8 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches in diameter for your waste, and go in that hole, dig it up, put some little anything that was local to that area, rocks, etc., cover it with natural materials that were nearby, just to kind of avoid people like stepping over it and such. And then also, like, if you're going to be backpacking and camping for a long period of time, you definitely want to make sure that they're widely, again, these cat holes are widely dispersed. And then toilet paper. So I actually was pretty shocked to read in the Leave No Trace principles that they actually say you can bury it, but I personally prefer to always pack my stuff out. I don't want to leave anything out there. I would, just as a lover of the outdoors, also recommend you do the same, but they do say you can do that as long as it's properly buried, as mentioned, in a 6 to 8 inch hole. And then also make sure, ladies, I know it sounds so gross, but bring plenty of toilet paper to actually pack out your tampons. And it's okay to go out in nature if you have your period, by the way. I know that's typically a taboo situation, and we're like, well, I have my period. Can I go hiking? Yes, you can. Just have to properly pack and make sure to bring enough Ziploc bags to trash your extra trash. So that shouldn't stop you. So just remember to pack it in, pack it out. That's really important. Just in general, like micro trash that you find out on the trails. As you can see this photo, there's like trash everywhere. So just be mindful, make sure that whatever you're going to bring in, you're also going to be able to take out. That includes heavy packaging and cans and such. So we're going to briefly touch on this. This is more if you're camping, right? If you're going to have dishes and such, you definitely, first off, you never dispose of your food out in nature, because that would potentially cause you to have animals nearby coming to your campsite. So only cook what you're going to eat. I will give you a fun tip. I took a class with the Sierra Club called the Wilderness Training Course, and they were like, you don't want to be carrying out a pack of the food. So make sure you test the food out before you leave and that you like it. And if you're not sure, don't make it out in the backcountry. Like, don't make the whole bag. You can actually create a koozie with Ziploc bags and do little bits of, testing. So you don't have to take that whole bag of food out with you or carry it along a long trek. So make sure you always do your dishes 200 feet away from water, streams, and lakes, that you dispose of any water away from your campsite. You don't want animals near your campsite. And again, you're going to need to pack away your leftovers, or you're going to want to eat them the next day, but you're not supposed to actually trash that food. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to add in, of course, making sure that your campsite and where you're washing your dishes is also pretty far away as well, because if you're in an area, especially like where there's bears, you definitely don't want to have those bears near your campsite as well.
I had a bear incident on the JMT, and I always love saying this. It was after dinner, and we're going to talk a little bit about bears, but it was right next to my campsite. It was definitely interesting experience. So that might happen when you're outdoors. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about soap and lotion. So doing, backcountry stuff and backpacking, one of my favorite things. I know one of the things that would scare me again was like, how do I shower? How do I keep clean? So these wipes are like my best friend now, and they help me to not have to use soap. Even if it's biodegradable, it's still not great for the planet. But if you're going to use this soap, you're going to want to do that 200 feet away from any lakes, streams. You don't want to contaminate the water. And then also knowing, like, if you're going to jump into the lakes, try to ensure you shower before you jump in, because there's animals that need to drink this water. There's fish in the rivers or lakes. So just being mindful of how your product you're using can affect the water source. Okay. So, the main thing there is, yes, you can wash your hands, allow the soil to filtrate to filtrate the water. So.
All right. So I know this is going to sound real simple, but obviously leave it as you found it. And, what does that mean? Let's talk about, I mean, in this photo, leave flowers and plants and others to enjoy. I mean, this is really what we want to do. So let's go through the don'ts. Let's say don't carve in any initials or do any hammering into the tree. So I know it could be you could think, oh, this is simple. I'm just going to put a nail in the tree and hang up my lantern or something like that. Don't do that. Don't pick flowers. If you really love nature, you'll let nature live. Don't pick them. You can take photos. Same thing goes with rocks, petrified wood, antlers, anything else that's out there. Just leave it for other people to see. I mean, especially if you were to come across like a skull from a bighorn sheep or something like that, that's really fascinating. Leave it there. And I won't even talk about the germs or anything of that sort. But don't dig trenches for your tents. Do not dismantle any fire rings or create any new fire rings. And of course, let's be careful about any historical or cultural artifacts. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so campfires. So having a stove is much better for the fire. It's better than actually creating a fire and then creating it in a ring. Let's make sure that you do know how to use your stove before you get out in the outdoors. Test it out, make sure you have the right fuel for your stove. It's really kind of a problem, right? If it doesn't fit or if you have the wrong kind of fuel, and next thing you know, you don't want any fires to erupt.
I was going to say two notes that you brought up earlier, which was always double check too if you actually need a permit for your stove. I know in the Los Angeles forest, I want to say a couple years ago, they required you to take a class and then receive an actual printed permit that if a ranger came by, you had your permit to say, hey, I'm allowed to have my stove because I know how to use it. I know how to put it out. And a tip, by the way, sometimes these stoves, they fail, like a jet boil button may get stuck or something. So you always want to have a lighter as a backup or know how to use a flint in case the igniter goes out and you need to manually turn that stove on. So just a little side tip.
Okay. So let's kind of dig a little bit more into that campfire. So just as Carla mentioned, you want to make sure with the ranger that this is permissible. We definitely don't want to recommend that you go out there and start any fires or do it in an area where the fire danger is extremely high. Okay. Keep the fire small if you are to have a campfire. It's really wasteful. And also it could be very dangerous to create a huge fire. When that fire is to be extinguished, make sure that it's completely dead out. You can also put some water over it, some sand over it. You definitely don't want to keep a fire going at night. I know that could be very tempting. You're thinking to yourself, I just want to keep warm. And this is kind of why I want to keep the fire going, but you actually don't want to keep the fire unattended. Okay, so digging in a little bit further on that campfire and the collection of any firewood. Again, you have to double check in the area if it's permissible to collect any of that firewood. But if it is acceptable, then you can collect broken off and dead branches from the ground. Okay, and the rule of thumb here is about the size and diameter of an adult wrist. Okay, you don't want to break off any branches or trees, even if they're dead. Just it's not a good idea. It's kind of damaging the surrounding area. You want to purchase firewood locally and not bring anything from your hometown. And the reason for that is because there tends to be a lot of bugs that live inside of firewood. They kind of make their little nest there. And so when you're doing that into that new area, you're bringing maybe like an invasive species to the area. We really don't want to have an outbreak of some sort of thing. And of course, I mean, by the way, you're also supporting a local business when you're buying the camp firewood locally. All right. Now another mention here on the campfire trash. And the campfire, it's not a place to put your trash.
No.
Do not burn plastic, foil. Just be very conscious. This is really just a campfire. Have s'mores. You can cook over it, but it's not a place for you to burn your trash.
All right, let's talk about wildlife. I know one of the most exciting things about going to Yellowstone for me was seeing all the incredible animals there. However, I knew, do not get near the wildlife, leave it alone, let it be. As I've mentioned, I've actually encountered tons of animals on the trails, whether it be deer, I've seen bears, I've seen snakes. I mean, lots of different things. The first thing you want to do is respect it. Don't touch it. Don't feed it. It is possible that animals could bite. You never know. And they do have dis-ease and stuff like that, or dis-ease, rabies, etc. So don't go there. Don't put yourself in that situation. Touching animals in itself is especially if they're babies, could cause their parents to like not want to be near them, because now they have a different scent. So that's also dangerous for small animals, little babies. Also, don't make any loud noises or sudden movements so you don't scare the animals away. We are visiting their home, so we have to be respectful of these beautiful creatures. And obviously the only time, what we were talking about earlier, right? Like I had a bear in my camp one day. So I actually got my trekking poles out and was like yelling, "Go on, bear, go on, bear." That's really the only time that you really want to use that loud voice and make yourself look and appear bigger. Yeah, definitely give those animals plenty of space. Don't get close to them because you want to take a photo. I know we all really want to share these moments, but it's better when you're present with them, and you can remember those memories forever. So also same with the water situation, you just want to make sure that you're camping at least the 200 feet away so that the animals have a place to go and drink their water. Okay. And we have a little bit more here. Of course, we mentioned don't feed the wildlife. Not only can they become dependent upon human food, but this is actually one of the biggest causes that animals like bears get euthanized. And, number one, they can become aggressive. They also, that's where they come near the campsite. I know this was a huge problem in Yosemite in the past. So there are a lot of things you can do, especially when you're day hiking or backpacking. There are going to be areas where you can place your food and any smelly items. That includes things like chapstick or sunscreen, things that you wouldn't think. Toothpaste. You don't want to leave these items in your car. You always want to use the bear lockers, or that's what they're called here, but animal lockers. And also know that you are responsible. So if you cause an animal to come into your park because you didn't do the right thing and put your food away, you could actually have fines, not only for this, but a lot of the other things we're talking about in this conversation today. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when it comes to dogs in particular. So make sure you store your food properly, as mentioned. And then if you're going to recreate in areas like deserts, please make sure to leave like watering holes undisturbed, because that is precious resources for the animals that really don't get the water all the time. So just be aware of that, and being aware of where you're stepping and making sure that you are mindful.
All right, so we want to also encourage you, besides animals, let's be considerate to other visitors. So what does that mean? So there's going to be people going up and down the trail, and the proper an ethical way of doing things is for downhill hikers to step off to the side and allow uphill hikers to go. And actually, the same thing is true even with cars. But let's just talk about people. But it's the same. It's the same thing. If you're going uphill, you want to give them the right of way. If you see any horses, hikers yield to horses. Bikers yield to humans, and of course, horses as well. So horses are easily startled. We really don't want to get them scared and create an issue where someone is riding the horse, and that could be very problematic. And anyway, so as you approach the horse, you can go very softly. You can speak in a softer voice, and that's how we can be considerate to those also using the trail. So another thing too, we love music. I think everyone likes music, but there's also people on the trail who want peace and quiet, or perhaps actually have a whole different musical taste. And so for that reason, we recommend using headphones, or you can also get these open ear headphones like aftershocks. And that way you're still allowed to hear the surrounding areas, but still enjoy your music. It's a bone conducting type of instrument. Maintain control of your pets. Obviously, we love to take our animals on the trail, but if anybody has a pet, or specifically a dog, we know that some dogs can be a little bit aggressive to other dogs, and we just want to be careful about that. I know Carla's going to talk a little bit more about dogs, so I'll leave that part alone. And when you do enjoy a rest break, step off the trail to allow other people to pass. So you're more than welcome to go off to the side and go on a durable surface. Again, to avoid creating any erosion or of sort, so that way you're safe and everything. Okay, so where do we get all this information? How do we learn everything that we've learned? Well, there's a organization called Leave No Trace, and there is a online awareness course, and you can take this course yourself. We have the URL listed down below, and it's free.
Yeah.
So just making sure.
The online awareness course is free, and it takes, like we said here, about 45 minutes. And you get a fun certificate at the end. I've taken the class before. It's great. It goes over everything we just talked about. So definitely make sure to check out lnt.org. And then under there, you'll be able to see all the different resources and tabs, etc. So.
Okay.
All right. So Recreate Responsibly is actually a new organization that came out during COVID times. And basically, a lot of these things are going to be a recap of everything we just told you. There are a few little small things and differences, and we're going to share those with you today. So their goal was really to keep you accountable, safe, and smart when you're outdoors. All right, so what are those guidelines, right? These are number one, know before you go. Again, what did we talk about earlier? Making sure that you call ahead. I actually read one of the comments here from someone that said they drove all the way to a trail. It was closed. I'll read it to you in a little bit. But anyhow, yeah, you absolutely need to plan ahead. That includes like knowing what clothing, checking the weather, checking that the trails are open, and all of that. So, number two is plan ahead. That's what we were just talking about. Number three, build an inclusive outdoor. So this is the one that we were talking about that's a little bit different. Actually, what they are talking about here is be respectful of all races, ethnicities, of all genders, of all ages, colors. We're all trying to recreate, especially right now with COVID. We all need this wellness that comes from being out in nature, and people don't feel safe going outdoors. And it's our job to actually make people feel safe when we're out there, and to be inclusive, and to create a life of I would say almost like this community instead of divisionary, which has been a lot that has been happening. So that really was their goal with this guideline. It's to really embrace other people and to be respectful and to be welcoming. Remember, we are recreating on lands that belonged to Native Americans. And, that's why there's a big push around like, whose land am I on? So when you're outside respecting these places that we're visiting, respecting others, again, being courteous. If you see someone struggling on the trails, you can say hello and ask if they need help, or it's as simple as saying hi to someone, even if you're socially distanced and you're quite far away. But it's just having that courtesy that really could mean the difference in someone's day.
Yeah, I want to add in there now, knowing what you know now and about Leave No Trace, how to go about helping people understand, for example, if you're seeing someone peeling an orange and throwing it out, or disrespecting, you may want to just politely let them know, but it's nothing to be creating an argument about. We still want to be respectful of others, be very conscious that there are a lot of people that are getting outdoors who don't have all the knowledge, who aren't sitting here learning just as you are. So it is a time for you to politely share if you like, and or ask if you can just pack out their trash and say, this is something I'm helping out with. I'm just taking out the trash, and maybe it might give them a little bit of a hint.
Yeah, leading by example. That's really what it's about. We really at 52 Hike Challenge, we really want to make this not about shaming anyone, but really just encouraging you to be the change you want to see when you're out there. And we also really want people to feel safe doing the 52 Hike Challenge, and that we are a community that is accepting and kind and compassionate. And I mean, we want to be positive in the world. So, let's talk about number 5, which is leave no trace, which we just talked about. So just following the 7 principles, really familiarizing yourself with that. That really means, like leave it better than you found it, right? Like don't add on things to the, don't leave things behind, etc. And then number 6, make it better. This is actually a really cool topic because we are going to be talking about at the end of the year in December, mark your calendars ahead of time. We're actually going to be talking about like what you can do to make it better. And this is about making the trails better, whether you're volunteering or you're cleaning up the trails. We can all do our parts to actually help maintain these trails. I don't know how many times I've been on a beautiful remote trail and I'm like, someone built this. Someone came out here and is maintaining this trail for me. And it really makes me feel like I want to do everything in my power to ensure that I do my part to keep these trails and maintain them, and to do my part as a steward of the trails. So that is what guideline number 6 is really about. And there's a lot of ways to get involved with stewardship. There is a National All Trails Day or National Hiking Society, which does a great job. They have programs. You can check with your local parks. They have docents, and they're always looking for leaders. So doing your part, super awesome.
All right, so we are still in COVID times. I know in some states and in some counties, the rules are different. Where some people still required to wear masks, some counties you don't have to. And but anyway, we want to still be respectful of everyone. So let's talk about how to do things safe. And so you can go trekking on less populated trails. The single trails, I actually tend to avoid them. I saw someone else in the comments about mountain bikers. I like to go on wider trails or places where there aren't any mountain bikers. And, because I don't want to get hit by a mountain biker. But during COVID times, it's also a point where you're going to be a lot more closer contact. So I would recommend that you search out fire roads. It's called a fire road because a fire truck can go up there and actually put out a fire if needed. But the fire roads are wide enough for a vehicle and a fire truck. So you can also decide to hike at non-peak times. You can have a face covering ready. You could easily have it, attached to a carabiner. I've done this where I've attached it to a carabiner and it was just right there on my pack. And then when I see someone, I put it on. So that's another thing that you can do. Practice social distancing. That's tends to be around about 6 feet. So you can kind of gauge what that feels like to you. And there are some parks that are actually closed. So make sure again to check in with the ranger and see if it is open or closed. And of course, while we're going to tell you to go outside, always bring the 10 essentials.
All right. So this is just a little reminder that right now, like in California, we've had a lot of fires, and even all around the US. I know that Montana has had fires, Colorado. I mean, it's been all over the US. And as a part of being in the coalition, I would get emails from different organizations talking about like how important it is to be aware of how not to be the person who's responsible for a fire. So the biggest thing is to really understand if you can build a fire. We recommend usually don't even go, just don't do it. It's just not worth it. And also just understanding really like what the restrictions are, what the closures are, super important. We just added this little slide for a reminder to look into fires nearby and be aware of what's happening in your own local areas. So you can go on to recreateresponsibly.org and you can look up all of this information that we are sharing with you here. That also applies to winter hiking. And I'm going to let Philip tell you a little bit more about that.
Well, for the most part, play it safe. Getting out there in the winter environment, especially when you're out there in the snow, a little bit different feel. We actually had a course on that. That was our last presentation about 2 weeks ago, and you can find it on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube page. But again, we want you to enjoy the outdoors. It's not about having to make sure that you make the summit, because again, I mean, in the winter time, there's going to be a lot of factors, whether it be, we don't want you to be post-holing and getting out there in a situation where it's taken a long time to get back or back safely. Don't want you to get caught in a snowstorm. Want you to be careful so you're not going to slip and fall and any disasters happening. So anyway, I just want to let you know that we do have a presentation on that one, and just be safe out there for the winter safety.
I wanted to add one last thing. Part of being a responsible hiker is to actually say to myself, am I able to do this hike safely? And if the answer is no, that I know to not push myself to that extreme. And that was one of the big things with Leave No Trace. One of the biggest principles is like knowing your own limits is not only going to keep you safe, but is going to think about the people who are in search and rescue that have to come out and save you, right? Like they're putting their life in danger because maybe you didn't plan ahead and because you didn't know what that trail was going to really take. So as you keep going in your journey, understanding your own limitations is super important. And then, making sure that you plan events and hikes that are going to be safe for you and just ensure that you have a good time. Like that's what we're really here to talk about, is being outdoors because we love it and because we enjoy it, but it doesn't have to be a place where we're pushing ourselves to points of having potential hazards happening. And that's really the big thing here, is just making sure that you understand and making those decisions for yourself and others responsibly.
Yeah, I also want to add in another little tidbit. Um, uh, explore locally. For those people who are new to hiking, and I can attest, when I first started learning about hiking, I only thought that there were two hiking spots that you can go to, and that was the Grand Canyon and Yosemite. I had no idea about all the things in my local backyard. And so All Trails helps with that, but there's tons of other resources. Googling just, hikes near me. You can even find some things on Yelp, interestingly enough. But there's also other sites and other good people, other bloggers that are doing some really cool things that are letting people know about some local trails.
Definitely. All right. So hopefully you didn't hear my dog yapping a little while ago, but let's talk about pets. I'm sure everyone loves dogs, and we want to take them outside with us, and boy, is it good for their health, right? So we actually have a pets series for people who want to take their dogs on 52 hikes. But anyhow, so, one of the biggest things is making sure that before you head out, you find out if the trail actually allows dogs. I recently spoke to a ranger here at my local park who actually was informing me why dogs aren't allowed on trail. Well, guess what? Dogs have their own scent to pee, which actually can scare off animals that already live in the park. And now, they're already struggling with their own space, right? When we have trails that are built, we're already coming into their habitat. So now having dogs scaring them off is not good for the animals and the environment. So that is actually one of the things that, a lot of times we don't understand. Why are there rules in place? Well, maybe looking into the reasons why they're there. So it was really informative that this ranger shared that with me. She also shared with me like hiking after sunset and why it's so bad. It's actually causing the birds to change their own schedules. And now birds are up when they're not supposed to be up. So it's really interesting. Take the time to like talk to your local park rangers and understand like reasonings for why they have certain rules and regulations. It's really great and really makes you empathetic towards like following those guidelines. So let's talk a little bit more about animals on the trails. So please be respectful to other hikers, especially someone who may be afraid of dogs, kids, etc. Keep your dog on a short leash when you're near people. The other day, by the way, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. I was on the trail and it was getting a little bit darker, and we were almost at the end, and all of a sudden I see this thing and I wasn't sure what it was. It was a snake, and had my dog been on a long leash, he could have been bitten by the snake. It was a baby snake. I was like so thankful I had my dog really close to me, and I just moved really far away from it. So just practicing that, keeping your dog on a short leash. You don't want to have a situation that you could have prevented. Please train your animals, showing them how to sit, and like not be aggressive towards other animals, etc. Super important. Like I said, keep your eyes on your pet. So we are going to talk a little bit in the next slide about dogs can get into poison ivy and poison oak. And as we mentioned earlier, Technu is one of our sponsors, and they have products for poison ivy, poison oak, and their wash is safe for animals, just in case they do end up running into a bush. Even when they're on the side of the trail, they may run into a bush. So really important. And again, as I mentioned, there is wildlife out there. So making sure that you keep your animal close by is really great to keep you safe. Also, the other day I was at Joshua Tree, and they had a really wonderful sign up. I mean, not wonderful, but it was actually kind of sad. It said, "Don't be the reason why your pet dies today." People take their animals out and don't realize how hot it is. And animals have a different way of dealing with the heat, and it could cause them to have heat stroke. And I know that when my dog gets overheated, he doesn't want to keep going. So really important to really understand the weather before you take your dog out. Bring an extra kit for them, water, not only for yourself, but for your pet is really important. So please don't push them beyond their own abilities, and prepare them for the hikes. So talking about some of these essentials, right? Like we talked about bringing the doggy bags. And by the way, one of the biggest things is, I'm sure every hiker out there has seen the bags on the side of the trail. And I know a lot of people that bring bags and they lug it out. And I've read tons of stories of people doing this. And first off, thank you for doing that. But really, if you have a dog that is going to potty in the middle of your hike, you need to carry extra bags or carry it somehow, not thinking I'm going to pick it up on my way out, because honestly, that really does not happen. I see these bags left behind all the time. I've had to carry my dog bag all the way down the trail till I got to a trash can. So please, please, please do your part. Don't leave the doggy bags on the side. Plan ahead. If you need to carry an extra little container for the bag, I know it's not fun, but we need to do our part. Please, please, please do not leave your pets off leash, especially if it's not allowed, because again, you never know how the dogs are going to interact when they come across another dog, potentially human beings. I know I was on a trail where a dog ran right by me. I was on a corner and it really scared me. And I'm not scared of dogs, but like I felt like I was going to fall, and I was on the ledge. And I just felt like that was really kind of, it wasn't being respectful of others. And that's really what we want to do. We want to encourage you to be respectful. It's not about you. If you want to let your dog run loose, take them to the dog park that allows for that. And again, we talked about the bags. And again, if your pet is aggressive, please don't take them outside. You don't want to be the reason why there's an incident on the trails. Being considerate is so important when we're outdoors. And then, please don't take your dogs on trails where it says clearly no dogs allowed. Usually most parks are really good about posting signs up front. If you aren't sure, just double check with your park. I know that here in our local parks, there are actually a list of trails that do allow dogs. So we know which ones we can take our dog on.
I just wanted to point out for those people who do have pets and those dogs, if they do happen to get into poison oak, this is it's the outdoor skin cleanser that is actually safe for dogs. And so anyway, this is the one that you want to pick up if you do have a pet, because obviously the poison oak and poison ivy is an oil, and once it gets on the fur, then of course you're going to get it on you. You are going to get it on you. It's going to be all over your car. It's going to be a big mess. So anyway, it's good to have that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so now we're going to move into some questions. So
questions, comments, and all of the good stuff. So we love including you all in the conversation. So we have our phones up here. We're going to be looking at some of your comments and so forth.
I think I saw earlier you mentioned, Carla, about living soil, and someone was asking, what is living soil?
Oh yeah, so living soil is called I'm gonna murder that word, but it's basically soil that actually contains different forms of life, believe it or not. And it's a crust, and it's found usually like in desert settings and things like that. So you could usually see it. It actually has like little black. It's kind of like a crust black. Usually has some green in it, but I don't know the exact word and how to say it properly, but look it up online, and Leave No Trace has more information about that. So let's see. I have Melinda. She said she had an experience in Mount Shasta. She said the road to the trailhead was closed and the whole area was closed. So she said she called the ranger and found out that information ahead of time and went to a different trail. And that's actually one of the Recreate Responsibly guidelines, talks about like having a plan B. So like when you're making your plans, always have a plan B. Like, hey, if this trail is closed, is there a trail nearby that I can walk to? Super awesome that you were able to find that out, Melinda. So
by the way, someone else mentioned cryptobiotic soil.
There we go.
That is the name.
Thank you.
Cryptobiotic crust.
Yes.
So thank you very much for those of you who chimed in and let us know. Okay, so someone asked, we've talked about bear, but what do you do if a deer buck charges you, especially during rut season? Do you happen to have that one on hand?
So I actually do not know the answer to that. If anyone in the community does know, I have heard different things when it comes to like animals. We actually had a conversation recently about like things you can do to be safe out in nature. One of the most important things that happens with plan ahead is actually finding out what the flora and fauna is in your area, what animals you're going to encounter, and then how to deal with that situation should that happen. Where we live, we actually don't have that that happening where we live. But of course, if like, let's say we were living in Montana and there's tons of bears, especially grizzly bears, we would need to know how to deal with this if we encountered it. So in that situation, I would absolutely tell you to like look up some scholarly websites or national park websites, etc., that deal with that specific animal and then what they recommend. I do know like people live in areas where there's hunting going on. So one of the things I recently heard is like wearing bright colors so that, you know, you don't get confused with an animal is really important. Again, part of preparation is knowing these things. So please understand what flora and fauna you will encounter on the trails.
Right.
So we have some other really cool things. So we were talking a little bit about human waste on the trails, whether you're backpacking or whether you are hiking. Melinda recommended using a bidet to help decrease the amount of toilet paper. I actually do know of a company called Coolacloth for women out there that made a little, it's kind of, people used to use a handkerchief back in the day, but now people have this woman created this, it's kind of like a little triangle that you clip onto your backpack and you can use to wipe when you go pee. And actually, if you leave the triangle open, the UV rays actually kill bacteria. And I did verify that information recently. So yes, there are alternatives. I really, really personally feel really sad when I go to the restroom and I see a ton of toilet paper out there. So please, please don't leave your toilet paper behind. Always bring your little potty bag with you. And it looks like we had more people talking about the bidets as well. So if you guys want to use or maybe link to that bidet in the story here or in our live feed, please do, because someone may want to purchase that. So let's see what else we've got here. Linda agreed that it would be great to talk about you know, telling someone, hey, I'll pack out your trash, being a really helpful way to deal with other people. So I actually was talking to Modern Hiker recently, like actually not recently, but I said to him, hey, what do you do when you know someone's clearly breaking rules? Like, how do you approach someone? Because we don't know how someone's going to react, right? And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why most of us don't say something when someone is doing something they shouldn't be doing. So Casey said, that it wouldn't be a bad idea to say, hey, like I just saw a ranger nearby. Did you know that you can actually get fined for bringing your dog on the trail that says no dogs on it? And that is actually very true. There are fines for taking your dog on a trail that says clearly marked, no dogs allowed. So you can also do it in that way, like kind of just saying like, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but you know, there are fines that, you know, and I saw a ranger nearby or something like that. That was one way we talked about. I mean, it's kind of a difficult situation, right? Like the best thing you can do is educate your family and friends of what you do know about the trails. So
Yeah, so for some of you, we also we've we've been very conscious that and by just it's been a wonderful thing getting people out on the trail. But we have been conscious and also recommend doing a lot of stewardship and whether that means helping build the trails, but also pack out and having a time where you actually pack trash out. We created something a while ago called the Adventure Series, and part of those tasks include to do something for the environment, for the trails, and to give back. So that way we're not just using the trails all the time, but actually preserving the trails and preserving it for future generations. It's just unfortunate that, again, a lot of people, you would think it's common sense, but it's not common sense. And again, I can definitely understand where people get off with the idea about peeling oranges and peels and saying, well, it's biodegradable. Well, it looks like trash in the moment, and it looks like trash for a while until it degrades. Not to mention, the animals are going to start eating this trash, and this is going to create more issues. So, just be conscious of it now that you know a lot more, and and kindly let other people know about the other things.
So Linda Thompson shared that she carries a lightweight waterproof bag that she uses to pick up trash on her hikes. And it also makes it easy to pick up items like doggy bags, and then she can keep it closed until she gets home. And also she said it's washable. So we would love to know a little bit more about that, Linda. If you know where we can get that, share it with the community, please. Leah said that in a lot of her trails, they have single one-way signs now. And I've seen actually trails that say like, hikers that are coming in start here, and hikers who are leaving go, they have separate trails for that. So yeah, that's been a really, really awesome way that parks have been working to ensure that we're safe during COVID times.
Yeah, even there's a trail near us, and I think it was stated around July that mountain bikers can only go one way, and that was up the trail, so that they weren't bombing down and possibly hitting people. And so there are some new developments that are occurring, such that we want to all recreate responsibly and safely, and be courteous of others, and just to kind of avoid some of those issues that could come up.
Looks like some people really like the Coolacloth, so that's awesome. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, see, Leah said that a lot of trails in nature and preserves allow hunting. So blaze orange, and that is what I did here. In fact, blaze orange is really important. And she says she wears hers during bow and gun season, I guess, in northern Michigan. So yeah, super important to make sure you're wearing the proper clothing, and understanding, again, the planning ahead is really going to help with that. And
yeah, I know we didn't talk about it, but I think it's really important to make sure that you check the areas in which you're hiking in and see if it is hunting season. Just want to make sure that you're safe.
So I think the last thing, since we want to leave this open, if there are any last questions, please ask your questions in the comments now. We will be on just for a few more minutes, but we're practically at the end of our conversation for today. So thank you so much for joining us. And what I wanted to say to close this out is that we're really thankful. We got a lot of this information from the Leave No Trace website. So please check them out once again for additional resources. So you can take that class, which is free. You can learn more how to get involved, how to volunteer. Same as with the Recreate Responsibly, I'm on the coalition, so I get their emails. I get the resources through them. So I did use a lot of their images and some of their quotes. So just to give you guys some sources for our presentation today. And also, we wanted to say, please help support us by, whether it's helping us with purchasing a patch or sharing the 52 hike challenge with a friend or family. It helps us to not only present these classes for free, but also get more people outside, and then do our part to be ethical and help people to, do it responsibly. We really enjoy your comments. So thank you for being a part of the talk and sharing your wisdom with the community. I know I've seen a lot of people that have been liking and sharing. We will also be sharing this video in YouTube or on YouTube, so you can forward this to someone if they don't know about the outdoors or how to recreate responsibly. You can come back and watch it again if you want to take notes. And I think that's kind of it for the presentation today. We are going to have one more we have a lot more presentations for the rest of the year. So actually in 2 weeks, we will be presenting on how to lead hikes safely if you want to take a group out. So how to lead group hikes. When it wasn't COVID time, and we would lead tons of hikes. And we've learned so much, and we know some of you want to be leaders, and we want to help you. That's what we're here for. So please mark that on your calendars. We will be sending out some newsletters soon. I will be adding it to the Facebook page so that you can RSVP, but we will be back on the same channel, same time, 2 weeks from now. I think the next class is at 5 p.m. and we'll let you know of the next classes in the next following weeks. So I think that's it.
All right. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all. See you on the trails.
Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.